It is Saturday, May the 9th, and welcome to the broadcast. You know, let me just tell you this for those that have a living mother, because tomorrow is Mother's Day. And let me tell you, you never get over the loss of your mother. And what helps me heal is by celebrating other mothers. Because, you know, motherhood is one of the few callings in life where sacrifice is often invisible, but its impact shapes generations. And this weekend, we celebrate not only mothers, but legacy builders, women who carried families, businesses, burdens, disappointments, victories, and dreams, often all at the same time. And let me remind you that in a culture that increasingly glorifies speed and self-promotion, motherhood still reminds us that the deepest influence is usually built quietly through consistency, discipline, love, faith, and endurance. And our guest this weekend represents something increasingly rare and deeply needed, not only in America, but in the world: multi-generational excellence. My dear friend, I start with her, my very dear friend, my bestie, and her daughter, Jen Adams, who's so youthful, but carries decades of wisdom, survival, resilience, and entrepreneurial insight. Spent a quarter of her life in the military, serving our country, and we'd never thank her enough. Alongside her daughter, RONNETTE, did not serve in the military, but she picked up all those traits that are necessary for success. And they embody what happens when strength, values, and vision are passed down rather than lost between generations. And so together, they are pillars of not only of our community, but around the world. Women who have built businesses, relationships, and reputations that stand, you know what, the test of time. And so this conversation today, as we celebrate these mothers, is not simply about success. It is about inheritance, emotional inheritance, spiritual inheritance, business inheritance, and the responsibility mothers carry in shaping the confidence, identity, and destiny of their children. So we honor mothers not as supporting characters in society, but they are architects of it. Jen Adams, a mother, grandmother, president and CEO of JMA Solutions, and RONNETTE Meyers, her daughter, CEO and president of JLAN Solutions. Jen, what life lesson has mattered more than all your business successes? And welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Armstrong, my bestie, for having us here today. We're both very excited to be here. Just really appreciate you talking to us. So I think, you know, being a mother really shaped my going into business. So, you know, it taught me to be patient. Mothers need to show patience. Business owners need to show patience. It taught me to be responsible. It taught me to be able to sacrifice. And, you know, it's just important that you know that when you're a mother, it's not only what you say that people are paying attention to. They watch what you do. Your children are watching what you do. As a business owner, you know, your employees watch what you do. So I try really hard to lead by example. I think it's just so important to not have my people do something that I wouldn't do myself. So I have to lead by example.
You know, RONNETTE, I see you beaming, listening to your mom, your bestie. What is the greatest lesson that still endures today that your mother taught you simply by the way she lived?
Oh, thank you so much for having me today. I'm truly honored to be here and to be alongside my mother. Oh, what a joy this is. So I grew up watching my mother build from, whether it's being in the military, going from an E1 to an E9, a Chief Master Sergeant in the United States Air Force, to literally building from scratch a business called JMA Solutions, which opened the doors for me to walk into. She ensured that I had a seat at the table to understand government contracting so that one day I could own my own business. And then watching her acquire another company, Ideal Electrical Supply, and then now she's the owner of the DC Power Football Club. I mean, she has showed me what it's like to have a business plan. It was her character. She never compromised who she was to get to the next level. She was powerful, principled at the same time. And I didn't fully understand how rare that was until I started my business in the federal contracting space and to see how much pressure it was on me as a business owner. But I think because of her example, it led me to where I am today, and I'm forever grateful for that.
You know, Jen, listening to Ronnette, I think this is very important for all families. What values were non-negotiable while raising your children?
So, I wanted to make sure that my children knew that I wasn't their friend, I was their mother. That was so important to me because they needed to know that I'm that person who is going to be there to ensure that everything falls into place, that they will be taught all the skills and life lessons that they need to know to be successful in this world. So I had to, that was non-negotiable for me. I was not their friend, I was their mother. And they don't really know, and people don't really know a lot of the sacrifices behind being a mother, being a business owner. They just don't know what we go through. All they see is what looks, I tell people everything that glitters isn't gold, so we've had a lot of ups and downs and struggles, but they always knew and respected that I was mom.
You know, Ronnette, I know you were just celebrated at the White House as one of the top business owners, not only in the region, but throughout this country. How much of your confidence as an entrepreneur comes from watching your mother? She talked about there are a lot of things that people don't know that they have to overcome, but you saw some of that and how your mother was able to overcome that adversity.
Oh, absolutely. Like she stated, people only see us on the outside. They don't see the contracts, the certifications. Excuse me, they do see the contracts, the certifications. They see us on the stage. They see, they don't actually see what it took for us to get to where we are today. Saturday mornings, family dinners where, we're sitting here trying to be present and we're thinking about proposals, we're thinking about everything else that's going on in the business and how, as soon as this moment is over, we got to get back to that. And, I want to be real about that because people don't always talk about that. And I'm just kind of feeding off of what Jan or my mom just said. We chose this life and we own this life. And because of her, the values that she instilled in me, instilled in my brother, we work hard every day to build something. We're trying to build a legacy that will continue on far past where we are today for our children and our grandchildren. But it's because of my mother who opened the doors for us, who gave us that seat at the table, allowing us to make a difference. So I'm forever grateful for her.
Jen, as a mother who raised children decades ago and watching this new generation emerge, what concerns you most and what gives you hope about the younger generations today regarding discipline and perseverance?
So Armstrong, I talk to a lot of young kids. I've been asked to, mentor some of them, and I find so often that these young women, in particular, they will tell me what they can't do. I'll say, look at me. This is what I've been through. This is what I've been through in life. This is where I am now. This is, what my children are doing. My grandchildren, or some of them are entrepreneurs. And they're like, oh, I can't do that. And it just hurts my heart to hear them say what they can't do. And then, so I'm spending time now trying to make them believe in themselves, because it's so important to believe that you can do anything you really put your mind to. And if it doesn't work out, then you don't let it get you down. You move on to the next thing, pick another option and move on to that one. So it's, I just want to really instill in these young people that they can do it.
Ronnette, I want to come back to this because being named SBA Small Business Person of the Year for the DC area is a major accomplishment. And what did that recognition mean to you personally, to your family, your mother, your grandmother, and then you have your mother? It seems that this success in your DNA continues.
It truly does continue. And, I was truly honored to receive the SBA, the Small Business Administration Small Business Person of the Year for the District of Columbia. It just really showed the hard work that we put in, the nights, the weekends, the 2 a.m. calls, really working to build something, but also the community work that I've done and that we've done as a business, supporting families in need or, feeding families. And every year we do this, we make a point to do this because when you've been blessed, you definitely have to bless others. But I also was truly honored to receive an email from the President of the United States of America inviting me into the White House to talk about small businesses and how we are thriving and helping the economy for the American people. So, as I mentioned earlier, for my mom who opened that door for me, she has propelled me to a level that I didn't even know I was going to get to. And so I'm just forever grateful. I am humbled, and I'm just, overwhelmed with joy.
Mom, my bestie, Jen, I love Jen. I tell people I don't mind that. Jen is one of the most wonderful human beings I have ever met in my life. So I want to wrap it with this question to Jen. It is important to build generational wealth and pass it on because the government cannot provide the way it once did 20 or 30 years ago, and the landscape is changing. Balance out the importance of creating this wealth, but not being greedy, understanding philanthropy, understanding it's better to give and receive, not compromising your character, and keeping your integrity intact, because every dollar is not a dollar you need to earn if it compromises you and the teachings of your parents and what they instilled in you. Jan?
So, first of all, I haven't really spoken enough about my child. I'm so proud of her. Just beaming, as she said, with joy. Every time I talk about her, I'm just so proud of her. One thing about my children, they're the hardest working children that I know. And they've got it from my parents, I'm sure. And but I just think that, if there's one thing I want people to take away from this conversation is that I want women to see what my daughter has become. And, we've created generational wealth for our family. We give back to the community, as you said, which is so important. And we employ people, which is also very important. And as far as what we do, those are probably the three most important things that I truly enjoy as far as being a business owner.
This is so touching. I got to get out of here. Jan, Ronnette, thank you so much for joining us. Coming up, the Bass family is in the house. Mama's on Zoom somewhere in Georgia. It's all about Mother's Day today. And then talk a little politics, a little sprinkle of it. Thank you all. Happy Mother's Day. We'll be back.
Thank you.
I'm so happy that we've got Miss Dorothy Humphrey Bass. I'm sure she's not, I know Mama's been on TV before, and then you got her daughter Dee Dee here, and her daughter JLAN, got the Bass family. There is some, oh, Mama looks good. Look at Mama. Look at Mama. Look at y'all. There is something powerful about three generations of women sitting together, carrying not only a family name, but a shared value and discipline of what it takes to build success, not just for one generation, but to pass it on to the next. Mrs. Bass, the matriarch of the family, I welcome all of you to our broadcast today. If there's one thing, one of the things I want to ask you is how big of a role faith, sacrifice, discipline has played in shaping not only your life, but the life of your daughters and your granddaughters as we celebrate this Mother's Day.
Listen, faith is the thing that has gotten us through everything. Faith over everything. We've had so many things to do, to get through, to plan, to manage. And if it was not for our faith, we would not have been able to manage. Our solid foundation is on faith. And you're gonna have to let me turn my phone off, okay?
Do whatever you need to do, Mama. Whatever you need to do. That's okay. Go right ahead.
But listen, Armstrong and the audience, faith is what rules everything. We have faith. I taught it to Dee Dee and Dina all along. Give them examples of faith and how it works out. And because God is the center of our life, if it were not for God, we would not be anywhere. So we understand that, and we believe that he is our all in all. We praise him daily. We praise him in the morning. We praise him in the middle of the day. We praise him in the nighttime. We just give him all the praise because he deserves it. Because if it were not for him, we would not exist any kind of way.
Dee Dee, I never realized how much you look like your mother. It's so deep to me because, television gives a day. What lessons from your mother shaped you the most as a woman and a parent?
Just being able to, like she said, faith. Faith has been so strong in our family. Going to church, going to Bible study, reading our Bible, reading our scriptures, but just hard work, being respectful, saying yes ma'am, no ma'am, yes sir, no sir. Mama and our dad have always been so present in our lives and everything that we do. They worked all the time, but whenever my sister and I, whenever Dina and I needed something or we needed to do something, Mom and Daddy were always there. So supporting each other and loving each other and respecting each other are just some of the things that they've always taught us, and we continue to do those things today with my family, with DAYLYNN and my son.
So DAYLYNN, what do you have in your toolbox that gives you your superpowers that you've taken from your grandmother and your mother?
Honestly, to have courage and be kind. For me, it's they taught me to be kind to everyone that I interact with. They've taught me to be myself and be true to myself. And the courage comes from just having trust in God and leaning on Him when you need to lean on Him, and then just doing what you need to do, and hard work, and just pulling up your bootstraps and getting to work.
Well, what guides you when you're in a situation? Because you're in school now.
Yes, sir.
Your parents are not there. Yes. You're a young adult. Mm-hmm. You have to make decisions. So
yes, sir.
What steps in when you have to make a decision that goes against the teachings of your parents and your grandmother?
Honestly, I go to my brother Dorian, so when no one else I can go to for real, I go to him to really talk about what I'm about to do and if it's not what my parents or my nana wants me to do, if it's good for me, then I talk to him and he'll walk me through that and he's in his faith journey right now, so he'll tell me about God and what God would want me to do and just pray about it and get through.
You know, Mrs. Bass, when you were raising your daughters, you did not have to compete with social media, the internet. There were not so many things that competing for the souls of your children. Imagine if you had to raise children today in this environment. What would you do differently? What would you change?
I would change social media and the phones and the iPads and the things that you put in your ear. All those things are just distractions. So what we did when we were home, we read. It was important for them to read. So what I would do to get our kids back on foot and not rely on social media so much is to try to get them involved in outside activities, like reading and doing things outside, just not in the house all the time and not on the devices all the time. Just try to introduce them to some other kinds of things that they can find interesting. And most often when I sometimes deal with kids a little bit now, I don't like to, but I do. and they are certainly on those devices all the time, and it's hard to get them off, even in schools. So what we try to do is introduce them to something else, give them something else to do, even if it's a sport. Try to figure out what other things that they like and get them doing those kinds of things. But it's a hard call because they are stuck on them.
So Dee Dee, as a mother, as an entrepreneur, children learn differently today.
They do.
I mean, I'm sure there's some lessons that you could never take from your mother that would work in the way you raise your children, but you have to adjust. What has it been the toughest adjustment for you? Not necessarily from how your parents raised you, but what has been the toughest adjustment that people don't often talk about? Not only being a mother, but also being a disciplinarian, and also instilling, because you can tell that your mother had great respect for education, to instill that it's important to have an education along the way, and a quality education.
Well, for me, when raising my children, it was always very important. Like Mama was talking about reading. We always read, and we always had books in the car, driving, whatever. If we were passing by signs, I was always telling Daylynn and Dorian, read the signs. What are the signs saying? Let's read the signs, making it a game. As a mom, they're my best friends. And I think the mother and daughter you had on before, we're talking about being friends. Daylynn is my best friend, and I believe that I'm her best friend, but she knows that I'm her mother first. But in knowing that, she knows that she can come and talk to me about any and everything, anytime. But it's been very important for us in terms of education to making sure that we talk about things, we read a lot. They know that I'm an open book. They can ask any questions that they want to ask, whether it's on the news. Of course, you would love to be able to have dinner around the table all the time. Sometimes that just doesn't work because you have lacrosse practice, you have other things going on, you have work. But we still make sure that we have that time to communicate and to talk. And so they know that our family is an open book. We can talk about every and anything all the time. And so that goes with educating them and making sure they understand education is very important. Studying, they knew you had to get your work done before you went out to lacrosse practice. You had to make sure that the grades are great. Daylynn just finished her first year at University of Alabama, and I'm happy and proud to say that she got all A's and 1B, nursing major. So she knows that while she's even on campus, that she has her schedule of getting up, making sure she's got to get her lesson done. She's got to go and do the things that are necessary, because we've always talked about education is the most important thing to do, and that will take you a long way in reading and understanding things. Just has always been very successful for us.
How do you deal with the pressures of life when sometimes you cannot live up to your parents' expectations and what they expect of you, and things that you do they would not be proud of? How do you deal with just being human? How do you balance that out? Because none of us are perfect, and obviously you don't want to disappoint your parents. How do you balance it?
For me, how I balance it, it's just like sometimes I have to go and breathe and go, well, I was in a dorm, but I would go in my dorm and I would just sit and listen to music or just be by myself for a little bit, and just to decompress and calm down, because sometimes I get anxiety. So with that, like, I would just calm down and like talk to my friends and then come back to it after, just to get a clear mind and clear head, and then be able to do it properly, do it the correct way.
But there are a lot of students around you who suffer from depression, anxiety. They don't have the strong connection. You just don't have a strong connection with your mother. You have a very strong connection with your father and your grandparent. Is that not unusual?
Well, it is, yeah, you could say that, because like, people say like me and my mom are like too close at sometimes, or like me and my dad are too close, or my nana. But like I think it's fine. I like it. I like talking to them.
But that's more normal though.
For me, yeah, it's normal.
Yeah. But we live in a society today when you're not close, that becomes the norm. But that is not necessarily the norm. If that's your mother, she should be your friend, and your father, you should be close to your father. Yes. But society is crazy today.
Yes.
It is.
Go ahead, Mama.
It is crazy, but I think one of the things that keeps us calm and help us out a lot is that we know that we can center ourselves and come to each other and talk about it. We talk. Some people ask me sometimes, how many times have you talked to Dee Dee today? Yes, about 5 times. And that's before 11 o'clock. And so I mean, and I called Daylynn at school. I called Dorian. We keep in touch. We keep in touch, and keeping in touch makes it so I think the kids will feel comfortable with not making bad decisions because they know that we're constantly watching and looking and seeing. And we've got that 360 thing on, and we know where everybody is, and we use it. And I don't know what would happen if we didn't have it. And we talked about this one time. Dina went to California with a bag phone. She drove to California with a bag phone way back in the day. And she had to call in every 500 miles. She could only go 500 miles. And then, we patterned out the hotels on the way. But now I look at myself and I say, what a crazy woman I was to allow Dina to drive all the way to California only with a bag phone and telling her not to get a hotel that had a bottom floor where you just walk up in. And she really did respect that because once she was at school and her school sent her on a trip and they booked her in a hotel that had the bottom floor, and she was really easily able to call them and say, you got to book something else because my mom doesn't allow me to go on the bottom floor.
I want to wrap it on this note because you and your sister were very close to your father. And your being a good mother and being the woman that you are today was so impacted by the relationship you had with your dad.
We lost our dad on Valentine's Day on February 14th. And Daddy was hardworking, he was salt of the earth, and he always said, I love you. And that was very important. He was never afraid to say, I love you, or embarrassed to say, I love you. And I think for me as a mom, and Mama and Daylynn and Dorian, we say I love you all the time. And so I think with Daylynn's friends, they're like, gosh, you and your mom are so close. And she's like, yeah, we are. I'm close to my mom, I'm close to my dad. When we go on her college campus, all of her friends are coming to us, talking to us, because they know that Daylynn has a group of people who love and support her, and it comes from our mom and our dad. And even though Daddy is not here, he's still here. When you drive up to University of Alabama, you see the begonias and the magnolias, and those are the two of the things that Daddy absolutely loved to have in the yard. So I feel as though that those begonias and magnolias around that campus are his arms around that campus, protecting and watching over Daylynn. And so, and Mama's the same way. So we have a family, Armstrong, we love to laugh, we have a good time, and we love and respect each other, and it isn't normal sometimes.
Oh, it's normal. It's normal.
And it should be normal for people. So,
but listen, I love the fact that you're also humble and fierce, and that's important. And to say, Mama, Bass, Daylynn, Dee, Dina, you're here, but you're here, of course. And we'll be back to talk a little politics as we celebrate this Mother's Day weekend.
Oh, okay.
So Nathan, there's a Republican proposal to spend nearly $1 billion in taxpayer money on security for a new White House ballroom is rapidly becoming a political landmine inside the Senate debate over funding ICE, Border Patrol, and immigration enforcement for the next 3 years. The optics are brutal. Your thoughts?
It's interesting to see how this has become such a political football. I think that you have to keep in mind that most recent assassination attempt on President Trump, understandably, has made people more wary, has made them more concerned. I had a look at the legislative text, which is not that lengthy. They do specifically state that there are guardrails on this. None of the money goes toward construction. It's just focused on security for the East Wing, for that project. I would agree that I think further explanation of why this money is necessary, why the taxpayer should be on the hook, that would potentially help. On the other hand, I know that the Trump ballroom, whatever one makes of it, it has become this political football. And so I suspect that no matter what sort of explanation is offered, whether it's satisfactory, whether it's not, this will remain something that Democrats seize on. And of course, though, with this ICE and Border Patrol funding, they're going to be using reconciliation. So Democrats will effectively be cut out of the process for good or for ill. And this really remains one of the few areas where I think they can seek to score political points in a process that shuts them out.
So, Andrew, your thoughts on the Tuesday elections in Indiana and Ohio? A lot of people were really surprised that those candidates that opposed Trump were ousted. And I know the legacy media was just praying that they would have a narrative that, because if he had lost in the reddest of all red states, man, can you imagine what that would have done? But were you surprised? What lessons do we take from it?
Well, we always want to be very, very careful because remember, these are local elections and local issues there's a lot of overlap, of course, and there's a lot of things like that. So you want to be real careful making sweeping pronouncements. But what you're seeing here a lot in these primaries, and you're going to have another in one of the reddest states next week in West Virginia, you're seeing a lot of inter-GOP conflict based on the money streams and the fundraising networks and the various PACs and the various nonprofits. They're all going to war with each other, and a lot of it has to do with Trump. And of course, President Trump's name's on top of all of it. A lot of this is actually repositioning for what's going to come after Trump. Is it going to be a continuation of what Trump is doing and a continuation of what they've been doing, or is there going to be a turn to something next? That's the undercurrent here that makes this interesting. The president, obviously, his candidates won, but we got to be careful with this stuff.
So let me stop you there because I want to do a follow-up. So are we witnessing, Andrew, the collapse of governing in favor of permanent campaigning?
Well, we've been permanently campaigning for decades. We just didn't call it that. The permanent money cycle is probably a better way to do this because whether you like it or not, that's just the way we live now. The money cycle never, ever stops. And in states like West Virginia, my home state, they literally have more outside political money coming in than they know what to do with. They're doing mailers that don't really make sense. They're doing TV ads. They can't get enough ad time because there's more than they can get on the bandwidth. They have more political money than they know how to spend right now. That's the big change. It's not just the ideology or the topics at hand. It's all the money and how do you spend it and how do you keep feeding the machine in these places.
So, Nathan, I hate to put you on the spot with this, but I have to. And this includes the president, the vice president, and his advisor. Does anyone know what's going on with the Fargo war with Iran? Does anybody know?
Well, that's a fantastic question. I wish I were in Islamabad. I wish I were in Pakistan because I'd be in a better position to answer that. I think that the answer is probably both yes and no. For example, recently we had the story out of NBC News that the Saudis had denied U.S. airspace for that Operation Project Freedom to escort boats through the Strait of Hormuz. I believe that the Saudis denied that. On the other hand, it certainly doesn't seem clear to me what the actual truth is at this point. This comes, though, as the United States can say we have provided this peace plan. Iran is reviewing it. So it might be advantageous for the United States to say, well, you know, we paused Operation Project Freedom because now Iran can look at this. And maybe there's a grain of truth to that. Maybe it's not the full picture. Robert McNamara, he would have a hard time, I think, puzzling through this if we're going to talk about fog of war. Certainly going to be interesting bringing it back to the midterms to see if the White House, if the people making decisions are able to bring down the cost of gasoline through any sort of peace deal, because I think there are just a few weeks left for that to happen and make the sort of impact on those elections that Republicans want to see.
You know, Andrew, you could not help but notice Mark Rubio standing in for Carolina Leavitt, did a fantastic job with the press. Then you could not help but see him with the Pope Leo at the Vatican. That went very well. But what was bizarre was the president's continued attacks on the Pope, just seemingly out of nowhere. And how significant, Andrew, is the relationship between the Vatican and the White House in shaping global moral and political influence?
It's a very symbolically important one, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way. No, it's symbolically important for the United States to get along with one of the largest religious groups in the entire world and one of the largest religious groups in this country itself. So no, it's symbolically important, but it's also, look, one of the downsides of President Trump is he's completely transactional. Pope Leo came out tomorrow and said something nice about him. All this would be forgotten. They'd be back to buddy-buddy. So I don't know that this is going to be a sustained thing, but he's also got somebody in Pope Leo who is completely disengaged from all the normal media leverage that the president has to bring to bear on people. Pope Leo does not care, and he's openly said He's like, I'm not fighting with the president. I'm just saying whatever I need to say and what I think I ought to say. And then he moves on to the next thing. It's one of those things where the president can't really control it. He would be wise to drop this and get along with the Pope, I think, in my humble opinion. But this is just part and soul of what the man is like. He's very transactional. And if him and the Pope are getting along, great. If they're not, it's not. It would be better for the country, though, if we all at least nominally, diplomatically, and symbolically get along, though.
You know, Nathan, you know what happens next week? If it goes well, I assume it will, the president goes to Xi in China. That's a big deal. There's a lot at stake, especially given how privately and secretly China has been using Pakistan to use trucks into Iran. They helped them build those drones. They helped them sustain their war against the United States. I mean, obviously, this is an interesting Shakespearean get-together between the most important two world leaders now. What is your take?
Well, I think that it will be interesting to see, even as Iran and China maintain that relationship, even as we have some indications that China, Russia, some of these other players in that axis want to continue fighting. China and its allies are hard hit by gasoline price increases. I think Cambodia, Laos, other places in Southeast Asia that tend to be more aligned with China than the United States have seen some of the greatest increases, and that's because they are so reliant upon the Strait of Hormuz being open to supply their energy needs. Looking back to 2025, to Midnight Hammer, there's some indications that China was a player behind the scenes at that time, cautioning against a closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Meanwhile, we also have the UAE leaving OPEC, aligning effectively more closely with the United States, potentially not in the short term, but in perhaps the medium term, opening up more energy, which, while that maybe will have a negative effect on U.S. producers in terms of cost, that would address some of these supply shock issues that we've seen. China, at this stage, could be calculating that, well, the message has been sent. Maybe the United States won't be able to displace all of the regime, all of the IRGC out there. But on the other hand, this war is not worth continuing. I really wouldn't be surprised if we see some meaningful momentum, some real progress directly connected with this meeting between Xi and Trump.
You know, Andrew, did James Comey permanently change public trust in the FBI? It seems that no matter what, they've left Tish James alone, and she's quiet, the New York Attorney General, but they're determined to put James Comey behind bars, if I can be so blunt.
Well, I mean, I'm old enough to remember when the Clintons were going to destroy the FBI, and then you have James Comey and Hillary Clinton in the hole. So this is a fascinating character. You want to talk Shakespearean, there you go. There's a good Shakespeare play chasing that through line all the way. What you're seeing now, though, is what's happened in all of politics. We take a figurehead and then we apply it to everything else. The problem is James Comey was very happy to be that figurehead. He liked the attention. He wanted to be the shot caller. He wanted to make those tough calls. He also got himself in a whole lot of mess I don't think he was planning. Now, I think the Trump administration is probably overreaching with this indictment of him, but this is a fair point to go. It's like, if you're going to talk about politicalization of the FBI, even though it's been bipartisan in my lifetime, he's a good example of it, because maybe it wasn't directly political. It was just a whole lot of ego and a whole lot of I'm above all this, and then that get supplied to the political process, and then the political process is pushed back. That's a pretty good Shakespeare story. You could probably make something out of, I think.
And last but not least, on this Mother's Day weekend, was that really a letter written by Jeffrey Epstein that they just released this week, Nathan? Or is that more AI?
Oh, you're giving me a hard one here. You're giving me a challenging one. I mean, I did have a look at the letter.
I did as well.
I have to say, let me just riff for a minute. I don't know if Jeffrey Epstein's mother would have been proud of him, but assuming it's a real letter, like, the handwriting was so terrible. I just have to imagine that whatever edge he was supplying, as we've also seen from the emails, it wasn't based upon his skill as a writer.
And I tell you what, we'll leave it at that. I hope you enjoy your mothers and grandmothers this Mother's Day weekend. When we come back, Nana May will join us to talk about the Southern Poverty Law Center and a little about Mother's Day. This is the Armstrong Williams Show. Happy Mother's Day, mothers. Happy Mother's Day, Nina May, my friend for probably over 40 years. I've known Nina and Kobe, and you look just as young back then as you do now. Mother, writer, producer, director for Renaissance Women. You know, let me start here with you. In our series, you look fabulous, okay? Has the Southern Poverty Law Center remained a civil rights watchdog, Nina, or has it become increasingly political?
Oh, increasingly. I think from the beginning it was political. And the fact that they're using the money by telling people that there's racism alive in this country and you need to give them money because they're going to stop racism, then find out they're funneling that money over to the KKK and other anti-Black groups, anti-Semitic groups. You're thinking nothing has changed in over 150 years. The Democrat Party is still the same pro-slavery party, pro-oppression. They love socialism, they love Marxism, and those are nothing but slavery programs.
Are you saying to our audience that the Southern Poverty Law Center is an arm of the Democratic Party?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, you don't think so?
I'm asking the questions. I'm just asking.
Yeah, no, of course they are.
I'm not coming into judgments. I'm asking you.
No, I think they are. Well, think about it. If they're giving a dime to the KKK, that puts them in the pocket of the Democrat Party because they founded the KKK.
Yeah, but I'm going to challenge you here. I would be shocked if anybody of note were aware that the Southern Poverty Law Center, that was an advocacy groups against racism and bigotry and the Ku Klux Klan, was actually enabling them so they could make more money and file lawsuits. That is so corrupt. That's crazy. You actually think the Democrats were aware?
Of course they were. Of course they were. Yeah, well, okay, let me ask you this. Do you think there are any Republicans that are supporting the Southern Poverty Law Center and then identifying Republicans as being racist? I mean, why would a Republican do that? Because they're not the racists. The Republican Party is a civil rights party. It was founded to abolish slavery. The Democrats divided the nation on the issue of slavery. They became their own nation.
So you're saying the Democratic Party,
their own president, their own constitution.
And
they're still the same Democrats today.
So are you saying the Democratic Party, instead of denouncing, passing civil rights laws that stop bigotry, racism, de jure segregation, and all that, they were actually pouring gas on the fire?
Yeah. They're kind of like a firehouse that basically starts a fire and then raises money to put the fire out that they started in the first place. I mean, think about it. Why would they be giving a dime to the KKK if they didn't support what the KKK stands for?
Well, that's
which
a good point.
Racism. Racism.
How influential, Nana, is the SPLC in shaping public perception of extremism and hate groups in America?
Well, that's what they claim to be doing, and that's why they've made millions and millions of dollars with people supporting the idea that they're going to be trying to get rid of racism in America. And they're going to be trying to expose and destroy groups like the KKK, but instead it's flipped on its head, and they're giving money to the KKK. I mean, it's just, it's frightening and infuriating them. If I'd given a dime to them, I would feel that I'd been lied to, I'd been deceived,
my goodness.
that I was told that this was going to happen when this actually happened over here. There's got to be some kind of accountability. And
this is so sordid. It is so sickening. Why don't you, for those that don't really understand what we're talking about, why don't you lay out for our audience exactly what the Southern Poverty Law Center actually allegedly has done?
Well, what they're doing is they're raising money from people who believe in equality. They believe that racism is horrible and it should have a stake, put through his heart. Everyone believes that. There's no one that doesn't believe that. So people were willing to give them money because they were supposedly doing the right thing. But when you found out that that's not where the money was going, and the money was actually going to stimulate and foster more and more racism and division between groups of people in the country, you think, how could we have been so deceived by that? I mean, what's the response now? What's the answer? What are we supposed to do? Should we have a type of reparations? Everyone's talking about reparations. Let's make them pay the reparations. Because again, they're supporting a group that was founded right at the end of the Civil War as the terrorist arm of the Democrat Party. You cannot take those two things away. You cannot take or separate the Democrat Party from the KKK. You can't. They were the terrorist arm of that party since the beginning. And of course, everyone knows that the Republicans were founded as the abolitionist party. They had 9 planks in their platform, 6 of which dealt with equal rights, with emancipation, with voting rights. It was a civil rights party from the get-go, and still is the civil rights party.
So do you think they have contributed to this dangerous rise of extremism, hatred, anti-Semitism in this country?
You're talking about the Southern Poverty Law Center
Yes.
doing that? Yes, absolutely. They've stirred the pot of hatred and racism around the country for years now. I mean, you think about all the things that have happened that did not need to happen, and people's lives that were changed and hurt and destroyed because of these lies that they were perpetrating. And they went all the way to the bank. I mean, they were laughing all the way to the bank because, they were fooling these people that were giving them money to continue these horrible programs, racist programs, divisionist programs.
What concerns you most about the current state of polarization in our country?
Well, it's based on lies. I mean, it really is. I think the people that are falling for it and are being more aggressive in the riots and the protests and stuff like that, they've drunk the Kool-Aid and they believe that this is really happening. But if you look beyond that and you see how communities are getting together and you see how people are working together, and in the churches are integrated, the schools are integrated. I mean, everything is totally integrated. There's nothing that isn't integrated, but that's not what they want. They want that division. They want that battle to go on to keep this thing alive that gives them the power that they have and the control that they have. And the battle is against that. I mean, and that's what we've been fighting all these years. I mean, think about it. If the Democrats had not been racist all those years, we would have had a black president long before Barack Obama, long before. The first 23 members of the House of Representatives, black members of the House of Representatives, were all Republican. There was not a black Democrat elected for another 100 years. I think it was Barbara Jordan. For 100 years, the Democrats did not have a single black representative, a congressman. So we've seen historically how that party, and continuing today, has always been a party of oppression, always been a party of control. They believe that the government should control every aspect of our life. That's what socialism is. That's what communism is.
So let me stop you.
That's what the slave-holding country was all about.
Let me stop you. Do you actually think, though, that this is reflective in the current Democratic leaders in the House and the Senate today?
Well, we hear a lot of, when you're calling the President of the United States a fascist, a Nazi, a racist, on and on, when there's absolutely no proof of that. I mean, think about it. He gave a beautiful building to Reverend Jesse Jackson years ago, and before he was even involved in politics. He was always very supportive of the black cause and the cause of integration, and he was very, very generous with it. But yet they still call him a racist. They still say that he's, the spawn of Satan or whatever they want to say.
But my deeper question is this.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the same Democratic Party as defined by the Southern Poverty Law Center in Congress and throughout the country today? Are you saying they still have the same similarities, the same agenda? They're still holding back minorities from their greatest achievement?
It's the same exact Democrat Party that they've always been. It's a party of control. It's a party of racism. It's a party of slavery. I mean, think about it. When you take people that are conservative blacks like yourself, you step out of their plantation, their liberal plantation, and say, you know what?
I have my own plantation.
I don't believe
it's called freedom.
But they believe that blacks are on their plantation.
I don't know. I wish I had more time with you. We don't have enough time. We don't have enough time.
I'm not saying I'm calling it a plantation. That's what my conservative black friends say.
I'm not one of those. I don't put myself in a prison. I'm free. I don't see color.
Of course you
I don't care about.
But they don't want anyone to know that you're free and liberated.
I don't want to sweep everybody and say the same what they do with Republicans. Republicans make these sweeping comments, but this is a fascinating conversation. I know some good Democrats. I have to tell you, I do. I got AD that's a good Democrat. I'm just having fun. Look, Nana, thank you. We need more time. Happy Mother's Day, everybody. I didn't expect it to go out this way, but I want to end it on this note. Happy Mother's Day. There's a lot to talk about, okay?
There sure is, absolutely. And thank you for talking about this, for having us on.
Listen, Nina, listen. How do you plan to spend Mother's Day tomorrow?
Unfortunately, our son is in Dallas, Texas, and he couldn't get away, and I can't go
couldn't
there,
get away?
so- No, he's got productions he's working on, but I'll be with my husband and some dear friends that are up from Florida, so it'll be fun. But he'll make it up to me in a couple of weeks. I'm going to be able to get over to Dallas.
Well, if he doesn't, you and Kobe call me, okay?
Oh, we will.
and we'll have a great time together. A wonderful conversation. I want to thank Adams, the Basses, Andrew and Nathan, and also Nana, WJLA 24/7. But the best is the National News Desk, baby. They've got it going on. Watch the National News Desk. I'm Armstrong Williams, and we're out of here. Happy Mother's Day.